Hello everyone, and welcome to a little video on what I learned from my yoga teacher training. So I went to the Himalayas last year to study yoga, and when I first went, I would say that I had an ignorant / superficial view of what it would be about. I'd done plenty of yoga over the years, but it had always been for fitness, really, for flexibility, for muscle toning, all that good stuff. And so when I went on this yoga teacher training, I guess I approached it in a way that was like, I just want to deepen my practice. I just kind of want a nice experience, a retreat while learning something cool that I like. And what it ended up being about was something so much deeper, so much more meaningful. And I did do lots of yoga, but I also learned more about what it's all about, the philosophy, the lifestyle, what we're aiming for, which is ultimately enlightenment, very difficult to attain, but that is what it's all about. And so I suppose the thing that struck me first was the philosophy behind things. And I would ask 1,000,001 questions in our philosophy lessons. And I suppose the main one was around things to do with karma. And I could do a whole video on karma because it turns out that there are 1,000,001 types of karma. But what I wanted to understand is how to receive good karma when other people have done you harm or are in the act of doing you harm. Do you just sort of stay in a state of turn the other cheek kind of mentality? And I was relieved to hear that that is not the fact. If anything, it was a very good lesson in setting boundaries, sticking by your boundaries, and forgiving, of course, more for yourself than anything else. And forgiving, but not forgetting, not allowing them to harm you in the same way again. And I was like, good, And that is still a way of continuing to look after good karmic energy, your good karma energy. And another thing that really stood out during philosophy was stuff that we learnt around family. Because, and I believe this actually comes from Hinduism, there is an idea that you don't just have one mother. You have several mothers. Yeah. There's the birthing mother. Then there's the nurturing mother, the mother that feeds you. Then there's the mother who is like a guru to you. And the mother that is like a queen, who I believe is the one who motivates you, inspires you, drives you. And then there are a couple more that I can't remember. But just that idea of learning that, not everything's supposed to come from one person. It's like what they say around, it takes a village to raise one child. Well, yeah. It's not about everything coming from one parent or even just two parents. It's like when you have lots of aunties around you, you might be around one mother for a particular time in your life who's going to help you grow to a certain level. And then you go to your other mother and then another mother. And then, of course, there's Mother Nature. So having myself come from quite a fraught background, dysfunctional family kind of background, that was such an aha moment. Like, it should have never come from one person anyway. If anything, it's unfair to the mother and it's unfair to the child to expect them to seek everything from one person. So that was a lovely lesson. One lesson that I learned that I didn't expect to learn was around humility. Because I suppose in some ways I thought I was quite humble. Not super humble, but kind of humble. Because I'm not very materialistic. I'm quite minimalist when it comes to things, really. So I thought I didn't need to be humbled much more. But while I was out there, I got your classic dirty belly, and I've never experienced anything like that before. I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't realize that things could come out from both ends at the same time. And there was a point while I was in the thick of it, around day 2 or day 3, that I thought, well, this is it. I guess this is where things end. I guess I've had a good run. Yeah, I didn't think it would end like this, but there you go. And I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but that's genuinely how bad it felt. And there was a point where they were considering taking me to the hospital because I couldn't even drink water. But that didn't happen. And I ended up getting better by, I'd say, around day 4, day 5. And I was able to take part in the yoga classes again, but my body was so weak, and this is where the humility comes in, because I guess I've always felt like, I lose my phone, whatever, who cares, I don't have lots of jewelry, whatever. But something I realized that has always carried me through any difficult situation has been my body. And that's something I've taken a great deal of pride in, that you could take anything away from me, but it's cool because I'm healthy, I'm fit. And when I was in such a state where my body was so weak, and for so long I hadn't had control over my basic bodily functions, it was extremely humbling to have to ask for help over those basic things that you would think that you'd have control over. It was a real eye-opening experience, and in the end I was very grateful for it. Grateful to kind of be connected to my humanity, which is strong but also weak and fragile, depending on where you are in life, So that was a beautiful yet humbling experience, but in the best way. Something that I didn't think I needed, but there you go. And at the end of the experience of yoga teacher training, we were asked by our teacher who would lead our meditation sessions, what did you take from this? What's your main takeaways? And I said acceptance, not humility, although that was part of it, but acceptance, because I'd experienced so much gratitude for being able to use my body again, for being healthy again, that it just made me look at life slightly differently, more appreciatively, and with a bit more lightness in the body. And I just recognized how, everything's good. For so long I've had this habit of berating myself for not doing enough, for not being enough, and I just finally felt this sense of, I am enough, and everything's okay, and I'm doing enough, and totally fine to have goals and to go out there and achieve things, but actually at the end of the day, everything's okay. And that is just a feeling I have not had in so long. So that was a huge takeaway for me. And I guess before I end this video, I will leave you with a couple more nuggets that I took away that I might share at some point as well. And one of the big ones was to do with cleansing. Yes, cleansing. Now, in the West, I think we have a lot of ideas around cleansing, but they're mostly based around the digestive system, right? Around the digestive tract. So we think about things like fasting, or juice fasting, or water fasting, different types of fasting, right? But in the yogic lifestyle, you cleanse many parts of the body. And one of my favourite ones was around the nose, nasal cleansing, jiao neti. And there's this one that I do fairly regularly, where you kind of insert a tube down your nose and then you grab it from the opposite end at the back of your throat and kind of move it back and forth. And don't get me wrong, it's very intense the first time you do it, but then you get used to it. And typically you follow that up with a wash, which you use a small kettle, and then you just wash your nostril and it will come out the opposite side. And guys, it feels so good. Yeah, I highly recommend it. All of the muscles in your face relax, and when you finished the cleansing, it's like you can breathe. And I know you're already breathing, but you can really breathe. Fresh air. I don't know how else to describe it. It's such a lovely feeling to breathe and not have so much mucus. And it's amazing how much mucus is often in there. And another one that I really enjoyed was, I think it's called Trata, where you sit and stare at a candle for about 5 minutes. Longer if you're, more practiced. And the idea is that you cleanse the eyes. Yeah, you can cleanse the eyeballs. And you might cry, you might not, but just from doing that practice, it's a cleansing process for the eyeballs. I am in no way instructing how to do this, by the way. Please only do it if you have a yoga instructor present to guide you through it. But yes, you stare at a candle for 5 minutes, and the idea is that you cleanse the eyeballs during the process. And if you do that just before bed, it's really good for treating things like insomnia, because you would just go straight to sleep. And the final one that I really enjoy, actually there's a couple. There's one which is a colon cleanse, but we will talk about that maybe in another video. But there's another one I really enjoy, which is the salt water cleanse, where you down about 1 litre of salt water. And things will move quite quickly after that. So that's part of my lifestyle. And it just kind of maintains things. It's not particularly time consuming, but when I don't do it, I tend to just notice things feel a bit more blocked. And the final things that are recently part of my lifestyle, the yogic lifestyle, are becoming attuned to your circadian rhythms and the rhythms with nature. So one of our yoga teachers advised us on when to wake up, when to go to sleep, which is typically around sunrise and sunset. But the thing that surprised me is that there are certain parts of the day when you should eat as well. So typically you should eat when the sun is peeking over the horizon, and then you eat at midday, and then you eat when the sun is starting to set. So it will change slightly depending on where you are in the world and what season you're in, but for the most part it's around 7 a.m, midday, and then 5 p.m, 5 to 7 p.m. And that has had a huge impact on my life. That has created a sense of calm, balance, because I didn't realize I would do this, but before this experience there were times when I'm sure my body would go into a state of survival because it didn't know when it was going to eat next. I might know when I'm going to eat next, but my body didn't. So I would just have this urge that was uncontrollable to reach for that donut or any kind of sugary thing, because my body, it doesn't know when it's going to eat again. So that has pretty much stopped. I don't have those strong urges anymore. And I suppose just my daily lifestyle feels much calmer, particularly surrounding food. So there you go. I would say that those are the main takeaways that I took from my yoga teacher training experience. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.